Welcome to the dpost.com WVU Sports Chat. Today we're talking WVU men's basketball with sports editor Drew Rubenstein. I'm sports writer Todd Murray. Our men's basketball writer Justin Jackson is traveling back from the game in Waco against Baylor. And Drew, obviously a very big win for the Mountaineers Tuesday night, pulling out a 66-64 victory. First one against Baylor in Big 12 play.
And really, I think you could probably say it's their most impressive win since joining the Big 12 Conference. The only teams that WVU had beaten up to this point were Texas, Texas Tech, and TCU. And last year, those were three of the very worst teams in the Big 12, and continued for TCU and Texas Tech. That's been the case. So I think probably the first thing that comes to mind out of last night's game is probably relief for these WVU men's basketball players. It's been a long time since they had won a meaningful basketball game, and even though Baylor had struggled in recent weeks and is in a bit of a slump of its own, it still was a top 10 team, and by all indications it's got the talent and the abilities to be an NCAA tournament team. So for WVU to be able to fight and grind and actually beat one of those teams on the road, it was an impressive step for a young team.
And the fewest points WVU has allowed in a Big 12 game this year. That's got to be huge as well.
Yeah, and I would think so. I guess you could look at it as, you could have a checklist of all the things that WVU didn't do well, and that could be cause for concern. But really, I'd almost look at that as a sign of improvement for this team, because they did not play a perfect game by any stretch, but they still found a way to win on the road. As you mentioned, the fewest points they've given up in a game this season, and Baylor even shot 50% from three-point range, and I think Terry Henderson and Aaron Harris, neither one of them was necessarily feeling it from three-point range for WVU's offense, and still to be able to do enough of the little things to win a game. We've had so many discussions about WVU not being able to do those nitty-gritty details to pull out games, and in this one they did it. They forced Baylor into 17 turnovers, and they just kind of dictated control of the game up until the last minutes, where I think WVU was up 8, and then it went on a 4-minute 55 gap of not scoring a basket, but still finds a way to win. So to be able to do that despite the flaws is impressive.
You've got a guy like Jawan Staten, not afraid to take big shots. Some players don't necessarily want the ball in their hands in the final seconds, and it was clear that Staten was going to take the ball to the basket, try to take it right to the rim, get fouled, something. But just to have the courage to take that shot is huge, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I would say since Deshaun Butler graduated in the Final Four season, he's the first guy WVU's had since then who can take the ball and create his own shot. Kevin Jones was certainly a great player in his own way, but he never necessarily just came out the midcourt, took the ball. There was no doubt last night or in any time WVU's in a late game situation and wants the ball in Jawan Staten's hands, and he's delivered a lot of times. He's just by looking at his stats and kind of talking to other people, he's probably had one of the most impressive seasons for any WVU point guard in some time, and I think a lot of it is because of his ability to come through in the clutch. He had just missed free throws seconds before that layup, and still to be able to put that behind, step up when needed, and to come through with that reverse layup is certainly huge for the Mountaineers.
Of course, now fans are going to want to see WVU build off that win, and they're going to have quite a challenge here Saturday. A Kansas State team coming in here that, frankly embarrassed them in Manhattan, Kansas earlier this month. It's going to be interesting to see, how they respond Saturday.
Yeah, I guess that's the rude awakening, is they don't, I think between February 1st and February 10th, they have Kansas State, Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa State. So you're right back into the grind, and this Big 12 has proven to be just as difficult as a lot of the Big 12 Big Easts of the past, and that stretch is as daunting of a task as anything I think WVU's had in recent memory. And you mentioned it, Kansas State is a team that really looks like a lot of old Bob Huggins teams, just a nitty-gritty, defensive-minded team that rebounds the ball well. WVU's going to have to do a lot of the things I think that it did against Baylor, and just kind of rebounding and forcing turnovers. They're going to have to be able to do that against Kansas State, because in the first matchup, WVU just wasn't hitting shots early, and then it settled for those deep shots, and Kansas State just dictated the tempo and ran away with it.
Right. Will be interesting to see Saturday. Drew, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
Please continue to follow the Mountaineers on the dpost.com.